How do? Welcome to Real Porridge.
Hi, I'm back.
So, we're back with ex-prison Governor Holly. We're back on Dogging Lane, apparently. Well, that's what she told me last time I interviewed her. It's a better day. There's no rain, so you're going to be able to hear everything a little bit better. So, Real Porridge. Criminal justice and mental health. So today's episode is going to be about mental health. So why do I want to cover mental health? Well, after being on James English's podcast, I've been contacted by so many people who've read my book, people who saw me on there, ex-squaddies, firemen, people with PTSD, people undiagnosed mental health, people who've had some horrific things happen to them. So I'm speaking to a lot of these people. If any of you see this, you are all important as individuals, not just a name and number, as it were. So today Holly is going to tell her story. We had a little chat last week about her mental health. I don't know anything about it really. I'm going to pass you over in a minute to Holly, to tell you why she wants to do this. And I'll ask, if you see this, just put the word out there. So without further ado, I've always wanted to say that. Incidentally, guys, there is a box of tissues there. I will tell you now, when people get upset, I get upset. I can't help that. And the older I get, the worse it gets.
I should be okay today. I've put mascara on, so I don't want black streaks down my face, so I should be okay. And I'm pretty used to talking about it now, so hopefully.
So, like I said, without further ado, if you just tell us first. Actually, before we start, I'm going to give a little introduction to Holly, or about Holly from my point of view. So, like I said, 2012, she joined Strangeways. There was another governor started at a similar time. I'll only mention his first name, so as not to embarrass him. He was called Dave. And Holly and Dave were, you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah.
Were an absolute breath of fresh air in Strangeways. A lot of governors set in their ways. And for me, being an officer, so I know, because, they were attending incidents and they were on duty and things like that. They were shithouses. There was no duty of care. A lot of them would speak to prisoners if they walked on a wing and not yourself. Just, I didn't really want anything to do with these people. And, well, they didn't care. A lot of them didn't care. So Holly and Dave, breath of fresh air, like I say. How would you describe it? It was just like, and they were both very different people. Super keen. When they were on duty at weekends, quite often places like the healthcare, we never got visited. Always got visited by Holly and Dave. Holly, we struggled to get rid of her. She'd be there 2 hours drinking brews, eating cake and shit like that.
Not 2 hours. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, okay. But you didn't deny the eating cake and biscuits.
No, not at all.
Anyway, like I said, super enthusiastic. And all you need when you're a prison manager is to care for people. So if there was an incident, or we were, say, struggling with someone in healthcare, or we got a problematic prisoner, which we quite often did with mental health, they'd be there. If we needed something doing, they'd support you. If there was an incident, a staff all right, that was their immediate concern. And for me, that's what it's all about. However, so both Holly and Dave, over a period of time, lose some of their shine, and that's not down to them. The system itself, it's not ideal. Sometimes you're uphill battle. If either of them two had been in a position like #1 governor where they could make decisions, the prison would have been amazing. They'd have both been fantastic #1 governors or deputy governors. As it was, you're up against it, same as an officer. It's not all bad, but at times you struggle. If you've got a dodgy manager, you're working overtime, something's happening, you could de-escalate a situation, somebody takes over, and then you've got a restraint situation or something going on. So I used to find it very frustrating. However, you know. And the sad thing is, as well for me, and I thought about this the other day, 23 years in job, she'd done the worst part of the job, you know, put up with all the sexism and shit like that. She's still young for a prison governor, and she's no longer doing it. And, you know, I look at what's happening with the prison service now, people coming in fast track, 2 years of prison governors. There was one at Strangeways, and although it's not her fault, she just weren't up to it. So that makes me sad as well. Right, I've said my bit. I've told you what I think about her. Over to you, lass.
God, I don't really, I've been thinking, because I've been like obviously knowing that we're doing this, and I don't know whether to start now and work back or start at the beginning and work forward. And it's
if you didn't mind, I'd like you to go back to when, if you're comfortable, as far back as you can remember, thinking maybe there's something not right with me, or you were struggling with things, you know.
Well, I mean, I can remember my mum was a very anxious person, and I think that anxiety passed on to me at an early age, and worrying about things unnecessarily. But I also remember when I was very young, having things like repetitive dreams, night terrors, things like that.
And how old are you talking?
4 or 5. So I can remember things from back then. But I'm not saying that was a sort of sign that I was going to become mentally unwell. But I would say I always felt different, even though I would fit in and be very gregarious and very, you know, very confident. There's always been a secret part of me. There's always been a side that people don't know, a side that people don't see, that I keep buried. And that was, I call it, and I've called it in therapy, I've called it like my monster, my demon. So throughout, I'm not going to lie, throughout sort of my teens, I mean, I'm not going to go into massive amounts of details about sort of the stuff I experienced, just out of respect for any sort of family members that might be sort of watching this. But let's just put it like this, that I would say from the age of 9 to 15, there was the experience of certain traumas in various different ways. And I began drinking at a very early age. So I quickly recognised drinking as a coping strategy.
What are you sort of talking there?
What
age?
I think I first got drunk when I was 12.
And how did you get the drink?
Well, my dad gave it to me. We were at a Deterioration hotel on holiday, and I just was drinking whiskey with him, and we all just got absolutely arseholed.
Was that like, you know?
It's not good that I'm not endorsing that at all.
No. You know, I started probably having a bit of a drink when I was 14, like you did, local offie, buy some cider. Yeah,
Friday night and stuff like that.
But not with sort of.
Well, I think because there would always been drink in the house as well. So from an early age, my mum and dad would have wine with their meal, and I'd want to be like grown up, so they'd like water down some wine and give it to me. Yeah,
France, what, 10, 11? They have watered down wine,
well,
don't they?
that's what I had. So, so alcohol, I would say, was quite a big factor within my family. Not necessarily like sort of it was a massive issue, but it was a big part of like family get-togethers and stuff like that.
The social scene, as it were.
And I sort of did the usual teenage thing, getting drunk, you know, stuff like that, and quickly realised that it was a good coping strategy. So I went into my late teens, my university years, and at 18, I went to university, and I moved up the other end of the country, and I think I started to struggle, and I think that is when I first presented to a doctor and said I felt down.
Did you put yourself in front of a doctor?
Yeah, and I knew there wasn't something right. Obviously, you're drinking a lot all the time at university. We were doing other stuff as well, as you do. You're experimenting with things, and I was feeling crappy. So I remember presenting to the doctor, and he just threw some I think it's fluoxetine, antidepressants at me, and signed me up for counselling. So I didn't want to take the antidepressants because I was drinking, and I knew the two didn't mix together. So I binned the antidepressants and carried on drinking.
Why did he refer you for counselling? I don't want details. Just...
I think I just
was this just from a 10-minute chat or something like?
Yeah, it's difficult to remember really, because I have real problems with my memory now, and that may be down to sort of alcohol or drug abuse in the past. It may be down to like cognitive malfunction from all the sort of stuff that I've been through.
Can you keep it simple? Me and some of my viewers.
I've got a degree in psychology. You got to let me try and use some of my words.
Okay.
So like thinking difficulties, memory problems.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
We're good with that. Yeah.
So that was the first time really, and then, but I kind of sort of just pushed it to the back of my mind. Now I know, like I said, from an early age, there's been something wrong with me all my life.
Do you think any of your family members or close friends or whatever recognised anything? Was there any conversations?
No, I think people thought, and I'll come on to it later on, that I was a bit bipolar. I think because you've seen me.
Well, can I just say? I mean, I was thinking about this as well. It's not something I've discussed with Ollie before. When I first met you, and it's not something I discussed with Bradders, who was one of my managers, who loves Ollie. Everyone loved her.
It's her birthday today as well. Happy birthday, Karen.
Happy birthday, Bradders. When I first met you, and bipolar, I don't have an issue with it. There was a lass when I was at school who was manic depressive, and obviously they change that, don't they? They change it to bipolar for whatever reasons, whether it's political correctness. For me, manic depressive, it's a more accurate description. And when in a very short time of meeting you, I thought, this nut job's manic depressive, and I don't mean that in any disrespect. You were funny in that, but it's just you were very sort
I was very hyper.
But I don't think that anyone recognised that.
Yeah.
Do you? Who you work with?
No, they just thought that was my natural character, and that is a side of me. That is my work Holly. That is the Holly that sees the public, the Holly that interacts with people.
Have we got different sides?
Yeah, very much so.
I'm going to see one that I haven't seen before.
No,
you got a knife.
You don't want to see the bad side. Honestly, it's bad.
Okay, let's keep it.
So I think just I won't go into mass amounts of detail, but I've always known there's an issue. So I think towards my I got married, I think when I was 30 maybe, and prior to that I'd had series of catastrophic relationships, again, unstable, excessive drinking, functioning at work and stuff like that, but not really.
Was that down to you more than maybe people?
Well, I'll come on to that because there's an explanation for sort of it, and how it all fits together in my mind. Sort of like when I come on to the diagnosis, it'll sort of all start to make sense. So I think I was again. I think when I was about 30, I've had anxiety and depression on my health record for years and years and years, and I've never taken had never taken antidepressants up until the breakdown of my marriage, and that was in January 2016, and that was my fault, and that was my. Again, I'm not going to say it's because of my condition, that's why I did what I did, but it is a sort of a behaviour that is consistent with sort of the diagnosis, which I had affairs, I cheated, and because
do you think you like it's sort of like almost like being out of control?
Yes.
Or not?
2015, I've got friends that have said to me, we knew you were on a path to disaster. And I don't know why. I was exercising excessively. I was dieting extremely. I'd lost a lot of weight. I was hyperactive. I was, and suddenly I've lost all this weight and I'm starting to feel better. And my relationship wasn't great with my husband, and sort of things sort of carried on like that. And I'm not making excuses for my behaviour, because there are no excuses. All I'm saying is there were reasons behind them.
Yeah.
And then I got into another relationship very, very quickly after that. Continued to drink heavily. This relationship started to turn abusive, and I really started to spiral out of control then. And I would say in 2016, that's when the shit hit the fan. So just before I go on, I've been told that in terms of the mental health world and work, I'm a bit of an anomaly, because I always manage to function at work. No matter what I've been drinking, what I've been doing, I always managed pretty much to get into work.
I know two of you.
Yeah.
There's another lass I've just been speaking to who is again, but it is few and far between. She said that.
Well, it filled helping other people filled a gap in me.
Makes you feel better, doesn't
yeah,
it?
makes you feel better. And like I say, that social interaction. And when I'm helping other people, and when I'm busy, and when I'm at work, you don't have time for any self-analysis or any sort of self-awareness, because you're just doing what you need to do.
You drink now?
Occasionally, yeah.
So you can still sort of drink socially.
I can still,
and enjoy it.
It sometimes can be problematic. I have to watch my triggers. I have to be very careful. I've just actually signed up for an alcohol service. And
volunteering?
No, I'm getting assessed, but just because I want to, when things start to go bad for me, drink is, there's trigger points that then lead me to drink. Drink is then a trigger point, which then leads me to other behaviours which are not.
Drink. It's worse than any drug, isn't it? Because if you're in a good mood, you're happy, you have a fantastic time. If you're down, initially it numbs it, and then.
Well, 2016, I was being told by my doctor, you've just got anxiety and depression. I'm going to send you for CBT. So I did the CBT. There was no change. I was chronically depressed. And I mean, I was working part-time at the time. And it was a glorious summer. And throughout the summer, I was either at work or in bed. And that was it. That's all I did for that whole summer.
Can I do not want to keep interrupting. I just want to ask things that, your CBT, did you get on with your therapist?
Not massively, no.
Do you think that's important?
Very hugely important.
CBT 216. We didn't do no CBT type shit. I had a lass who listened to me 4.5 months. She was amazing. And for me, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it is. And
did it make you worse? How did you feel after?
I wouldn't say it made me worse. It made me think more about my behaviour, should I say. But I was so out of control in other aspects of my life that it just didn't make any difference. And I still had this underlying feeling that something was wrong. So I changed doctors, because there was a doctor. I'd moved back to my original house that I'm in now, and I've been told that there was a doctor who was really good with mental health. So I changed practices, and I went in, and he said, well, we think you might have bipolar based on sort of what you're telling us, but we're not quite sure. Here's some antidepressants, see how you get on. So I've been through every antidepressant known to man, and I don't particularly get on with them, but at the moment they're a necessary evil. So I went on to mirtazapine to help me with my sleep, because I have chronic sleep issues. Yeah,
it does help you sleep, doesn't it?
But then you put the weight on, and I
only tried it twice.
Yeah.
And I slept. However,
I put on massive amounts of weight, huge amounts of weight, and I never really got it off. So I was going into crisis at the in December 2016, and I knew I was going into crisis. I knew I was spinning out of control. I knew I didn't feel right. I was self-harming all through 2016, and that's the first time I'd self-harmed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that.
Never self-harmed.
Never considered it.
Oh, actually, that's a complete lie. No, I have previously taken. I'd not self-harmed, but I'd taken prior to that 2 overdoses.
I was going to ask you about that
I
as
took
well.
an overdose in 2005, and I took another overdose in 2007.
Were they like having a good go?
The first one was.
Was it?
Yeah. And again, they referred me into mental health services, but I never attended because I thought it was just a one-off, and I was drunk and hungover, and I didn't intend. I thought it was just a sort of offshoot of my drunken behaviour. The second one, I did take a healthy amount of medication, but never went to hospital. Just stayed at home for a few days and tried to. So that was before that. But in terms of physically hurting myself, cutting myself, that didn't start till 2016. And it was just one night. I'd had an argument with my boyfriend. I think he was out. I just completely lost the plot. And obviously, I'm working with self-harmers. I'd never seen the not the attraction, but the point of it, the need. And I did it once, and I went, oh, I felt.
Did you become euphoric?
I felt instantly better.
Did you feel pain?
Yeah, but it sort of snapped me back to reality. But I was obsessed with looking at the blood, and I was obsessed at, it was just and that's how it started, and it sort of spiraled out of control. So I remember I was working at Liverpool at the time, 2016. I can remember the date, December the 19th, 2 days before my little boy's birthday, 2016. I was on my own in my office, and I was sobbing, and I just knew I'm gonna do something. Something's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna either top myself or kill someone else. I don't know. I was that on the edge. So I rang the mental health crisis team in Wigan, and I got seen the next day, and it was the first time. So I was listened to, all this and that, and it was the first time that borderline personality disorder was mentioned.
Who brought that up?
The mental health nurse. Now, people had said this to me previously. They talked to, and it was just, I think it was my ex-husband who said, you like Amy Winehouse, you're just a catastrophe. You're just an utter catastrophe. And she had that, apparently, allegedly, I don't know, but, and he mentioned it, and he talked through all the stuff, and pieces just started to fit in. But my previous experience of particularly women with personality disorders,
yep,
you have a negative perception about people with personality disorders because all you see is the bad. And it is not. And also, let's remember as well, personality disorders up until very recently, and I believe in Scotland and Wales, or Scotland and Northern Ireland, they still don't class it as mental health.
No, it was America that it was about. Well, it's in the last 10 years because it was under, they brought it under the mental health umbrella.
Yeah.
And also, personality disorder covers a massive spectrum, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You know, there's people who...
Antisocial, narcissistic, borderline. And when I said to him, what is the borderline of what? And he said, psychotic and neurotic. And I went, that's me. And I've been told once, a previous boyfriend used to say to me, you go from psycho to suicidal in a nanosecond. And that was me, horrific mood swings, rages, stuff like that. Stuff that people never see. Yeah. People would never see from the happy, bubbly, go-lucky
Hollywood. Put it down to women's problems. And things,
whatever.
In
the 1800s, they would have called it hysteria, wouldn't they? And they would have sent me off to one of these...
you'd have been in nut house,
sanitarium, and they would have said she's got hysteria, and that would be it. So I said to him, so my experience was, I didn't think there was any treatment, I didn't think there was any help. It was just like, this is what you've got. So my diagnosis is borderline personality disorder.
Can I ask you, how was it a man or a woman who...
Man.
And how long did you spend with him for him to come back with this?
Literally about half an hour. It just all fitted in. So that's when I sort of entered into the recovery service and started. But I've got what's called so just for people's knowledge, really, it's also called EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder. Now, a lot of us that have the condition prefer to call it borderline, because emotionally unstable just suggests that, oh, you're a bit up and down. Whereas that sort of scale between psychotic and neurotic is a far more to me. You know, like you're saying about manic depression and bipolar.
Yeah.
For me, it's a far more accurate, because you're on that seesaw all the time. So I went into recovery services, and
what's that mean?
so you go into treatment basically. So I started
residential, or
no,
were you still at home?
No, I was still at home, and I started. So just without going into too much detail, I did something called schema therapy. I had some sessions of that. I then went on to, so the NICE recommended treatment for borderline personality disorder is, it's called mentalization based therapy, MBT. So I did the introduction course, which was 10 weeks. And then I did a year of twice a week, one group therapy, one individual therapy, twice a week.
Really?
In my own time. I later found out that I could have got disability leave from work to do that, but I didn't, because I wasn't disclosing to anyone really. I think I disclosed to like my manager.
Just for, so nobody knows any of this, do
Yeah,
they?
no one knows anything.
There you go.
This is all
Brave lady.
This is all hidden, and yeah. So a few people know bits, but no one, apart from my current partner, no one really knows the full story. So, so I then went on to do this sort of, and it lasted sort of 12 months, and I came out of it and met David, and for a couple of months things were really good, and you know, came up to Christmas, again not going into massive amount of details, but there was a big family fallout, and I became estranged from my parents, and I kind of started to spiral down.
Do your parents know any of this?
No, I think they might have an idea, but I don't.
Are you in touch with your parents now?
A bit of texting with my mum, but that's it.
Would you like to get back in touch with them?
Oh, that's a big question.
It is, yeah. That's
David
what we're here for.
David keeps asking me this.
Well, do you know what, love?
I think I'm too fragile still at the moment, because it's been a very hard. My mum has got some very sick. She's undergoing radiotherapy at the moment,
so she's not well, lady.
So she's not well. That is my sore point. My parents. That is my and it's that sort of. But I had David, and he kind of, the loyalty and love. So I started to deteriorate 2 months into meeting him. Okay.
Yep.
Most men at this point would have ran for the hills and said, I've dodged a bullet there. But I was very open with him from the start, very honest, told him all my history, exactly what had gone on, sort of, and, you know, said, I've not stayed faithful in any relationship. I have difficulty sustaining relationships. I self-harm, I drink, I do this, I do that. And he still stayed around. So he must be as barking as I am.
Possibly, yeah.
Anyway, so I felt shit, but I carried on going to work, and I was working at Hindley at the time, but then my mania was increasing again. And that's me. So because I feel so shit inside.
Did you have any time off work for
not
all
that.
this?
I had 3 weeks in January 2016 and 3 weeks in January 2017, and that's it.
Whole prison
No, I'd had the odd days here and there.
Well, that's what I mean, that you're not being off for
no,
long
I used
periods.
to use my leave. If I was feeling shit, I'd use my leave.
Okay.
Because so I didn't have to go through it and say, or I'd say I've got a bad back, or I've hurt my knee.
Were you embarrassed by it? Maybe embarrassed, wrong word. Were you ashamed to sort of?
I think,
or
especially when I knew
thing?
More wanting to keep it private, especially when I knew my diagnosis. I knew people's judgments towards it, and because I used to have those judgments, and they're not very nice, and all the behaviours that are consistent with BPD are catastrophic, and they don't just affect you, they affect everyone around you. And remember, I've not only got that, I've got they call them comorbid factors. So I've got the comorbid factors of depression and anxiety as well. So after my treatment, I think it was April 2019, I knew. So to compensate for feeling shit at home, I went manic at work, which is very, very classic cycle for me, because I thought the more I can do, because I wanted praise, I wanted people to like me, to make me feel better. I thought, my parents don't love me or want me or have anything to do with me, which is probably untrue, but at the time that's what I believed. And I thought, well, if they can do that to their own daughter, if they can cut me off, and I cut them off, to be fair, But, you know, I'm worth nothing. The only thing I'm worth is coming into work. I am going to start as upset now. I didn't think I would.
Oh, no.
No.
You have tissues, guys. I bought a box because I equally am not as good.
No, right. And I just thought, it's when I talk about myself and how I feel about myself that I struggle.
Do you beat yourself up?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, is it like, you know, do you sort of blame yourself and...
Oh, yeah. Just absolute self-loathing. It's horrible. But I thought I was good at my job.
Oh, my word.
I know. So...
both end up in tears here.
I know. So I would go to work and I'd take on as much as I can, and I'd just try and please everyone because that made me feel better. But I knew again I was spiraling out of control, and the week before I tried to take my own life, I went sick from work. I went in to see, and I stopped taking my medication as well.
Did the meds help at all?
Yeah, because I went downhill very rapidly. Yeah,
that's just for people.
Yeah,
because a lot of people do that, don't they?
Yeah, I went downhill very rapidly, and that sort of triggered it off. And I remember sitting in front of my boss and just sobbing and just saying, I can't do any more. I can't take this. I've got to get away. I've got to. So I thought, for the first time, I've been relatively honest with someone about my mental health, and he was very, very supportive, and he said, just go and do what you need to do. And it was about a week later, and David's daughter had got into some trouble in I'm gonna get one of the tissues because my nose is streaming. Sorry guys. Oh god,
I've been blowing my nose as well.
Oh god. Anyway, so David's daughter got into some trouble, or something happened, and she lives over in Southport, and him being the good dad that he is, and he was like immediately jumped up and he was like, right, I've got to go sort this out, I've got to go help her. And I was just like, he went, and we hadn't had an argument, we hadn't had anything, and something switched inside me. I was on my own in the house. Thought, I've got nothing, I've got no one, and no one. It was almost like I felt a bit of, well, he's gone off to see her and left me. And it wasn't I did it to get back at him. I literally just suddenly
you
felt
feel the worst, don't you? You always think that everyone's against you.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think everyone was against me. I just thought I had no worth, I had no value, I was just, what was the point in being alive? And all the medication that I hadn't taken, so I took a mixture of amitriptyline, which is highly toxic.
Yeah, it's deadly stuff.
Yeah, it is deadly. I took amitriptyline, I took diazepam, I took antihistamines, and I took propranolol. Well, propranolol is a beta blocker. So I called the...
So that slow your heart down and everything.
But it saved my life.
Or did it? Because you didn't absorb everything?
Well, no, because it counteracted the effects, because amitriptyline affects your heart.
That's the dog, not me.
Dog's just farted.
Yeah, I've got Stephen in the back. I apologise. I just didn't want to think it was me.
No, I can smell that was dog. That.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, it's such a crucial moment.
I know, yeah. I was nearly dead, and then Stephen
dog farted. Yeah, good lad.
And then I did it, and then I thought, and I started to feel really woozy, and then I thought, fuck. What if David comes back and finds me? I didn't want him after going and dealing with his daughter to come home and find me. So I rang myself for an ambulance, and I really didn't understand why I'd done it. I knew why I'd done it, and I was on the phone to the ambulance because they couldn't. They said, "Are you on your own?" I said, "Yeah." So they couldn't. The operator couldn't. So I was like in and out of consciousness. I also self-harmed, cut myself as well. And the ambulance people arrived, and they were there as David pulled up, took me to hospital, sort of put me on a drip, flushed my system out, and yeah, there's, basically the propranolol sort of reversed the cardiac effects of the amitriptyline. So they offered me a hospital bed that night, and I declined. And David,
as a mental health patient.
yeah, and I declined. And David was keen and has always been really keen to keep me at home. He has never wanted me to go to hospital. Didn't think it would be the right place for me, particularly as well with the job that I've done. You know, I think he worried about sort of, you know, how it would impact on me. And basically it took me I don't know, I just went into a very deep depression. There was no treatment being offered at the time, so I kind of just had to get on with it.
Did they keep you on meds?
Yes, but I had to pick up daily meds. I wasn't allowed to have them in my possession
No,
or anything.
I figured as much.
I know, yeah, it was a royal pain in the arse. David literally, for about 6 months, didn't let me out of his sight. Wouldn't go to the shops without me. Wouldn't, you know, he was terrified that I was going to do something, and I think he was quite hurt that he wasn't enough of a reason for me to stay around, because he'd say, what about Max? And people always say, well, what about your kids? Max is my little boy, he's 9. What about Max? When you feel as shit as you feel that you want to take your life, you believe, my genuine belief was, and occasionally is still, that you're doing everyone a favour. You're doing yourself the biggest favour by taking yourself out of this pain and this torment and all the rest of it. But more importantly, you're saving your child from a lifetime stuck with you. And I didn't want to ever be a burden to anyone, and I felt like a massive burden. I still do at times. So it came to April 2020, and it was coming up to the anniversary, and I've been doing okay-ish. I wouldn't say I've been doing brilliantly. I'd had some counselling in between that as well. I'd had some, I think about seven sessions of counselling, and my counsellor noticed that. So I have sort of a cycle of moods. So I've been doing sort of like tracking my moods and knowing sort of where my cycles are. Weekly,
daily, what sort of?
Weekly. And I was getting quite violent at home. I was getting my self-harm had been increasing quite dramatically. I was seeing each time if I could go further, if I could go deeper. I was secretly buying razor blades, stashing them all around the house. My sleep was affected. I was still drinking, you know, all these sort of really negative. Oh, that's it. I was binge eating as well, so I put a lot of weight back on.
Purging as well?
No, that's one thing I don't wish I could, to be fair. But sorry to anyone who has an eating disorder, because it's not a laughing matter. But yeah, for me, it's, you know, it was just all bad. So I got to April 2020, and very, very typically, as someone with BPD, I'm going to sort of read something out to you in a minute, sort of, which sort of summarises the condition and sort of and what happens. But I'm very impulsive. I can be very aggressive at times. I can be violent. David's had to restrain me previously. I've gone missing. I've got tanked up, drunk, and gone missing. Gone and bought tablets, taken overdose and not gone to hospital. So all this was still going on in that time that I was off work. And then it got to April 2020, and I've spent basically the last 12 months pushing David away, and he stuck to me like glue, and I'm pushing him away, saying, better off somewhere else, you're better off without me. This is just, I'm a disaster, my relationships are disasters. And that's just the way it is. So it got to April 2020, and we've just had a stupid argument. Can't even remember what the argument was about. And I thought, I'll fucking show you. I'll show you. And that's the nasty, vindictive side of BPD. And I Googled it, planned it, saw how many tablets I had to take to kill myself, and I took them. And I took venlafaxine, which is, again, it's the drug I'm on now. Really strong cardiac effects, basically. It can give you a heart attack or whatever. David took me to hospital. I was admitted into the cardiac ward. I was out of my tree for 2 days, and then I went on a section the following day and spent 9 days in a mental health hospital. Got there straight away and was like, I don't want to stay here, and the psychiatrist wouldn't let me go.
No.
They made me stay, and actually it was really sort of beneficial in the end. And then I was picked up by the home crisis treatment team. I had daily calls or visits with them, and I found that very supportive. And I think from April, I have my glitches still, but from April this year, I have significantly improved. I've been, unfortunately though, because of the damage that I've done to my body, I've now been diagnosed with sort of a range of sort of physical health issues as well that are at the moment being investigated or not investigated. I've done a lot of damage to my body.
From taking tablets and things? So
I'm waiting for all sorts of tests and scans and things like that, which COVID obviously, and it's my own fault. I mean, the doctor said not to worry too much. Anything that he said, he doesn't think I've got cirrhosis, anything like that, and that anything I've got, it's showing up in my blood at the moment. So you know, I can there are treatments available and stuff like that. So but that's affected me in terms of chronic fatigue, and again this links in with depression as well, because I still get quite chronically depressed. My mood swings are still quite up and down, so the tablets that I'm taking help, but don't, you know, just keep the edge off. But I haven't self-harmed for a long time now. I think the last time might have been in February. That's really, really good for me. February, March, maybe.
Can I ask about yourself? We briefly touched on this. Where you self-harm, you said you self-harm on your legs. Is that so no one can see it?
Yeah. I have previously done bits on my arms, and I remember going into work and like with like scratches and cuts and things like that, and people going, oh, have you been attacked by a cat? And I'm like, oh, I was moving stuff at the weekend and I got caught on a nail, or you know, just coming up with stupid, because no one would think that I would do it. I really very seriously cut my leg in it was about March 2019, and I steri-stripped it myself, went into work, it burst open, I couldn't stop it bleeding, and I had a mini skirt on, and I literally had to go, and this nurse that I didn't know at all, I literally had to go and say to, because it was bleeding profuse, and this is like the day after, it's not stopped bleeding, and sort of had to like explain to her, I was just like, can you just help me clean it up and sort it out? And she didn't say anything, didn't ask me any questions, didn't, you know, do anything. I think that was the last, that was quite a deep cut on my leg, but I've done
are they quite visible now, scars?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some work. You can do like scar reduction work, so I've done some on my left leg. I've got quite a lot on my hips.
Is that you've been somewhere to have that done?
No, I do that myself. So it's called microneedling. So you get like your bio oil, and you needle it until the skin. These were like big, long
just with
scars.
a normal needle?
Yeah, no, like it's a roller. So you roll it over, and then you rub your bio oil in.
Oh yeah.
And you do that about 2-3 times a week, and it really significantly reduces the. So I need to start work on my left leg now. I am conscious of it in the summer and things like that.
Well, you know, if you're on holiday, would it stop you wearing a
it wouldn't, because I'm on holiday, and to be honest with you, it's really weird. Sometimes I care what people think, and other times I don't care what people think. It's
would
very.
You wear, you know, if you're at a family do, would you obviously hide that away?
Yeah.
To save upset?
Yeah. Yeah. To save people that I know saying to me, what's that? Or people that care for me or whatever. Yeah. But I think that was the last time. Oh no, actually no, there's been a time more recent, but I haven't done it for quite a number of months. So despite sort of the physical issues which I'm having, and like I say, chronic headaches, chronic fatigue, IBS, anemia, this like sort of rare type of anemia that I've got, and other things, I'm trying now to engage back in the activities that I enjoy. So I'm doing my yoga. I spend a lot of time with horses. I find that very therapeutic. That's been quite sort of transformative. Spending a lot of time outside, being physical. being, you know, I help look after 2 horses.
Excuse me.
I help look after 2 horses in particular, and they, you know, that's kind of my time. That's, you know, so I would say now my mental health is my well-being is my full-time job, because when I'm bad, I can have days and I mean previously when things used to go downhill, if things started on a bad track one day, it would last for 3 or 4 days before I'd get out of it. Now I can turn it around quite quickly, but if I do go into one of my sort of really severe depressions, you know, I won't eat unless David cooks for me. I won't shower. I won't clean my teeth. I won't, you know, I won't wash.
People don't understand that, do they?
You look at my bedroom. My bedroom's an absolute shit tip. It's, you know, I'm sleeping 20 hours a day. Yeah, I'm just very, very insular. I've stopped contacting people, stop interacting with people. But fortunately, that's got less and less. And doing the horses, having that responsibility, and I know it sounds crazy, but they're so dependent on you, you know, having that, and because I'm helping people out with them and I don't want to let anyone down, it's like, right, so like I'm going to do them this afternoon and this evening, then
the simple things in it, fresh air, exercise,
yeah,
you know, having company,
having that, yeah. Oh, I talk to the horse all the way around. Me and the horse are kindred spirits. We're both as daft as each other.
He's my therapist.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I'll be out chatting shit to myself still,
yeah.
and he's like looking at me like,
I know. And that's, well, I've got the dog as well, and she's very aware of when I'm feeling down.
I think they are.
She starts mithering for a cuddle, and she's like,
I think they are, you know.
They are, without a shadow of a doubt. Animals know, and I think sort of that's been a bit of a turning point for me, and because I've had, and I'm not going woe is me at all, I've had a fucking shit life. A lot of it caused by myself, some of it caused by my condition, some of it caused by work, some of it caused by other people, but I can't remember any sort of prolonged periods of happiness. And that is, or not even happiness, just contentment. Just,
is that like from within?
Yeah.
You know, so what I mean by that, for people who might be watching or whatever, is, so you're on holiday in a nice place or whatever.
Oh, I used to go to Barbados 3 times a year and things
that
like
you,
that. Yeah.
It's not your surroundings. It's just like
internally, that's you internal. Never felt comfortable in my own skin. And then when I left work, well, when I stopped working in April 2019, that whole year was really difficult, because it was like a transition of, well, I've always defined myself by the person that's in work. That was the Holly in work saved me, but the Holly in work also stopped me from finding out who the real me is, what's underneath that mask that I put out to the masses.
Well, it must be quite exhausting, that, you know. How long did you do in prison service?
21 years.
So 21 years in, it's got to be one of the most stressful jobs on planet.
Yeah.
With your problems, it must have been exhausting.
It was exhausting, and that's what David recognised as well. You know, he said, coming home from work, he said, work's getting 110%, but typical me, I was starting to implode because I take too much on, because I'm so eager to please people. But I think at this point, I'm just going to read out. So I had I mean, you know, Sam, that I'm going through ill health retirement at the moment, and this is my final appeal, because they believe that I am capable of returning to the position of a senior manager before my pension age, and it's scary, because the people that have assessed me, or the mental health professionals that have assessed me up until the sort of pensions point, said she can't work in this environment again, it's going to kill her.
No.
But it was an occupational physician who said, well, we need to know about the treatment, and we need to know about this.
Let me tell you about the occupational ones from my own experiences. Yeah, you know, my background's nothing like yours.
Just gonna have a little drink.
I spoke to 2 occupational health nurses, one who wanted me back at work with my arm in a sling, get me a taxi. So when I said, what about me mental health, what about my blood pressure, then she backed off. The other one was amazing.
Yeah.
And I spoke to two Occy Health at the top geezers, the ones that you're supposed to see, aren't you? One of them, the opening conversation I had, I remember it well because I went off my nut for 2 weeks. I mean, I would have killed someone.
They don't realise how damaging it is. The
opening line was, "Can I just tell you, Mr. Samworth, you won't get ill health retirement?" So I said, "I beg your pardon. I'm telling you now." That's how he said it. I'm like, "What have you brought that up for?" And my missus will tell you for 2 weeks. And also my anxiety, as in, because they were phoning back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Night before, panics, all that. Got back on the phone. This guy went, "Mr. Samworth, yeah, what can I call you?" Sam. Right, Sam, I've had a look at your notes. You don't need to be going back into that job. You're unwell at the minute. You don't want to make it worse. So I'm going to recommend ill health retirement. I think, sadly, it's a lottery.
The process has been so damaging towards me, and I think my age has worked against me because they don't want to pay me. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Don't mention your age. Very young.
44 in February.
No, honestly, love, I honestly think that the first guy, you know, it was almost like it was his money he would have been paying me. And the second guy, you know, had got some bloody compassion and empathy and said,
well, this is how ridiculous it is. So, despite recommendation by my psychiatrist, by a private psychologist, we've got to this final point, and David really encapsulated it really well when he said,
big word, look.
Sorry, he what's the word? I don't even know. Anyway, he spoke to civil service pensions because this whole process.
The pension people are great. Well, it's the prison service.
I found it's ill health management that I've had the problem with, who are the people, just for people's information, assess people for ill health on behalf of
the prison
service and the pensions. So David spoke to pensions people and he said, "Do you realise that this is a woman who, if she needs to phone the bank, will put it off, have to take diazepam beta blockers just to ring the bank and then goes to bed because she finds it so stressful, just overwhelming." And that's sort of one of the things that my resilience and my ability to cope with stress now is non-existent. And he said to the guy at the pension, he said, "You do realise what you're asking of her is similar to asking a cancer patient to run a marathon." And I said, I couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah.
Me running around. So what I did at the end, I've had to pay
to get an independent report.
£1,200 to a Harley Street psychiatrist. I mean, she's an amazing psychiatrist, and she's actually a disability assessor for the Department of Work and Pensions. So I thought, right, I'll go see £1,200 this report has cost me. And she covered the questions that they wanted to hear, that they wanted to know about. And they don't even know the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist, which for me is terrifying. But anyway, this is sort of my most recent sort of statement.
This is not gonna make this any less, you know, because you're going public on it. Does it not matter about that?
No. And
is it there for public?
Well, it's just it's my medical evidence, so it's therefore
you're disclosing
yeah. And it just says Miss Dalglish has a recognised medical condition, namely EUPD, commonly known as borderline personality disorder. This condition is often caused by traumatic events experienced in childhood and can cause emotional instability, which results in fluctuations of intense, usually negative emotions. Definitely. EUPD is characterised by difficulties with impulsive behaviour, including self-harming and excessive drinking. So that's me to a T. People with EUPD have intense and unstable relationships and fear people will leave them, but they also tend to push people away. They have disturbed patterns of thinking and perception, including hearing voices and feeling empty and numb. Now, I have heard voices, and that was terrifying because I thought I was developing psychosis, but apparently it's just an offshoot of this. Whilst the diagnosis was first mentioned to Misdiagnosis in 2016, emotionally unstable traits usually present in someone's early teens. So this is why I say that I was an anomaly.
Yeah.
And Misdiagnosis episodes of depression, anxiety, self-harming and drinking and unstable relationships suggest that of these difficulties have been present throughout her adult life. So basically what she said is, because I was diagnosed late, I therefore wasn't able to access treatment. So if you have a personality disorder and access treatment at the earliest available opportunity,
then it can help.
And it's far more likely to manage it and have a better outcome. I'm so effectively, like I say, I'm the anomaly, whereas I used work and sort of other various sort of, I'm going to call them maladaptive coping strategies, but that's bad coping strategies.
Yeah.
And I use those to sort of function. And finally, hopefully, from what she's written, I mean, it's a huge report, absolutely massive report. And basically, she said to him, yes, she is doing yoga, yes, she is horse riding, but these are short, pleasurable, stress-free activities which I can also cancel if I need to. And there has been times where I have rang up and said, I can't come and do the horses.
People don't understand that, do they? People think, I think work-based people think that, you know, because you go and do something, or you go to your pub with mate, or go for a ride on your motorbike.
Yeah, absolutely. That you're cured. I mean, basically, this report says to them, I've had all the treatment that's available to me. I'm quite, because of my age of going into treatment and diagnosis, I was quite resistant to sort of the therapy. Not resistant personally, because I was
using your thing, the further on poor people with cancer, but the later it gets found,
the more difficult exactly that's exactly it. So basically I'm in a position now where I'm waiting to go back into sort of recovery services. I may self-fund some private treatment, that's yet to sort of be decided. But I am managing my own condition at the moment. But the way I manage my own condition is by having that flexibility to go to bed if I need to go to bed. You know, go do the horses if I feel like doing the horses. Take the dog for a walk. Some days, David sees it written all over my face, it's going to be a bad one. And he'll drop everything he's doing and say, right, we're going to drive to Wales for the day. Because he knows as soon as I get away, that I'm out in the country or I'm on the beach or whatever, that stress melts away, and we listen to music and we have a sing, or I watch a podcast and I'm distracted. So I'm actively managing my condition at the moment. But that's not to say next week I'll be okay. No. Because one, you know, I find it really difficult dealing sort of with normal life situations.
Well, the thing is, isn't it, the thing with the prison service sort of challenging you, that will be making you unwell.
Yeah,
I know that myself. You know, the thing is, I do believe me, you know, if anything goes wrong, like you said, or you have to phone a bank or something like that, then it can be nothing, can't it? And it can bring something on.
Yeah, which that's it. And she's been quite clear that, you know, in terms of me caring for vulnerable people moving forward, that would put me at risk and potentially put them at risk, because I haven't got the ability to, I think, make sound decisions anymore. I've gone a bit, and this is where it's sort of gone a bit negative. I've always been quite self-sufficient and independent. And I'm working really hard at this relationship to make it sort of, you know, he's shown a lot of loyalty. And it is, a stable relationship as well is a very significant factor in your recovery.
Yeah.
Stability and work or education you know, they're two factors which will help you manage your condition. So I'm sort of trying to work really, really hard at making it work and making sure that we have a nice life moving forward. But I've become quite reliant on him, quite dependent.
Does that annoy you?
Yeah. I hate being vulnerable, hate it, hate asking for, I've had to learn how to ask for help, but
we all need help sometimes.
But I'm not very good at, and like the other day came up and he went, when did you last eat? And I went, I can't remember. He said, what did you eat yesterday? I said, I don't know, I don't think I ate anything yesterday. So last night he came up with a big...
You don't eat because you've got no interest in eating, or you just can't be bothered?
Can't be bothered, or just... I might eat... I sort of go days without eating, then I'll have a binge or whatever. It's not... Food's not really an issue for me. Yesterday I just happened to be quite busy, so I didn't really think, but bless him, last night, you know, he came up with a plate of really nice roast lamb and mint gravy and some veg, and I know, he's a really good chef, I get really well looked after. But he's quite instrumental, like helping me take care of things like finances and stuff like that.
Do you find all that super stressful?
Yeah, massively. Honestly, I am like, if I bury my head in the sand...
Have you always been like that?
A little bit, yeah. I'm like...
It absolutely amazes me. You know, you go to work and at points you've been in charge at prison.
I know, that's
dealing
what
with your own
everyone
finances.
That's what David says. The other day, I can't remember what it was, and it was something, and I'm a bit of a dipshit anyway. I've always been a dipshit and a bit ditzy. And I can't remember what I did, but it was something absolutely fucking ridiculous. And he just looked at me and he went, I can't believe you used to run a prison. And I went, I don't know what it was. I said I was still ditzy in work. I said, but when needed to, I could switch it on and I could make those difficult decisions, and I could, you know, that sort of gave me some fire. But I realised that was all just because I felt shit, I felt empty, I felt unloved, so it was like, even when people were nasty to me, I was always like trying to, and I am a people pleaser. I am like, you know, I find real difficulty saying no to people. I find, you know, and you know, David says, what, and I'm sorry, I'm going waffling on about it, but you know, we're together all pretty much all day, every day, you know, and we have been, and he's been so significant.
That can test you.
Mm.
You know, when I first become ill, you know, Amy, 10 years of me working A shift after A shift, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're there every day, and you're a bit as well.
Well, that's why I try to make sure that, you know, he does his mountain biking. When
you need your own space, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And we're good at giving each other that. And, you know, he'll go to Southport and see his friends or see his family, and, you know, I'll do my thing, and, you know, it does work. It does work well. But yeah, no, it's just it's difficult, and I'm very sad for the loss of the Holly that was able to run the prison. But that wasn't me. That was a character created by me.
It's almost like having a split personality.
It is,
isn't it?
Yeah. And this is me. This here talking to me. And don't get me wrong, I can still be really personable, gregarious, love a laugh,
She's giving the big words again.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I did do an A-level in English, you know. But no, I just trying to use the skills that I've got. But I'm sad, you know, I'm sad that I get overwhelmed, and I'm sad that I get stressed, and it makes me sad that I can't do that job. But then in some ways, I'm also like, when I'm out on the horse, for example, or I'm out walking the dog, like, and I just feel lucky that I'm still here and I'm able to do that.
So how would you see your future? Are you hopeful now you've got your, you know,
hopefully
now someone's told you,
validated, you've actually validated, you know,
they've
my
actually
condition,
sort of said, you know, are you hopeful that, you know, you'll be able to get on with things? Or
because this process has been going on for 1.5 years now, and I would say the whole process from start to finish, apart from little glimmers of I mean, I have to say my managers from work have been fantastic. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sort of lie about that. It's the process itself, and it's the people that, how can you go from all the way going through saying she's fucked, she can't work, to, but she's had a treatment. Tell us more about this. How, why can't she return to work? And the whole thing made me doubt myself, and it just took one letter to say, and this is my third appeal.
You see, that's the thing people don't understand. You get a letter and it can leave you absolutely raging for a month.
Yeah.
They're very impersonal. For me, right, I know a lass who was a nurse for a long time, and she went and took a job working with like PIP and that, doing the assessment.
Yeah.
She went job 18 months. It destroyed her. Because I think these people, like the people who work for the prison service, even though they're professional people, it is almost like it's their piggy bank they're giving you money out of and that.
Yeah.
And they are very cold. My situation was nothing like yours. Two guys, one proper tipped me over the edge, and I mean really psycho, and then the other one, within 30 seconds of speaking, he brought me right.
Yeah.
Completely understanding.
And that's the sort of inconsistency of it, and particularly, and what made me laugh was at the end of my letters from them, when they kept knocking back my appeal saying, we don't believe there was nothing contained in this report that would be detrimental to misdiagnosis. And after everyone, David was ringing up and he said, she's just read this letter and she's gone from up there, she's had a good week, to, and you just feel no one believes you. That you're just being hysterical, that you're not. And when I saw this psychiatrist, I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders, because I'm having to fight to prove that I'm unwell. And yes, I've got makeup on, and yes, today I've had a shower and I've put a bit of CK1 on, and
you're having a good week.
And I'm
because
having
I was concerned.
No,
that,
and I'm having a good. You
talking
mentioned
about these things.
And you said, you're having a good week. And like I said, this is the time for me to talk about it. But that's me on a good day. This is me on a good week. That's not all the time. And the problem with my... Do
you feel guilty? I tell you what, do you feel guilty about having a good day? That you might be wrong? Or do you feel bad? Or if you saw someone out, I mean, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
If I used to see someone out, if I saw another prison officer when I were on sick, and I'm
going
with our lass for a breakfast in Witherspoons.
Yeah, you'd feel like you shouldn't be out.
I feel really bad, like.
And I think I've been told previously that I became too comfortable in my misery, because I had nothing.
Who told you that? Perhaps
it was David, but he said he's trying to shake me out of it, and I could only take it from him, because he can say it's almost become your default setting, because you're not allowing yourself to be happy. You're not allowing to, and I think that is a big part of it, because I'm thinking, I'm meant to be ill though. I've got to be ill all the time to prove to people that I'm ill, and you do feel bad for having a good day, and you do feel bad for if I'm putting a yoga fit class on Facebook, or I'm putting a video of me riding the horse. But this is all part of my recovery. If I was working 40 plus hours in the prison, working evenings, weekends, everything that I'd need to do.
Family friendly shifts.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do any of that, and I'd find myself exactly back at square one. So, even with all the time that I've got on my hands now, I still forget to eat. I still forget to look after myself. I still, don't do as much as I like with Max, for example, because I might be physically exhausted. Like, he wants to go on a bike ride.
You still have a good relationship with Max?
Very close, yeah.
I didn't want to ask.
We are super, super close. And he is just so resilient. Some of the stuff...
I'm getting a bit teary again now.
No, he's been... And he asks me everything, and he speaks to me, and he'll say... is it your depression, Mum? And I'm like,
do you think you'll sit down with him one day and maybe have this sort of conversation we've had?
Yeah, definitely. We've got that kind of relationship. We're very, very open. Like, he asked me the other day, he said, what's a period, Mum? I was like, what do you mean? He said, what do you mean when someone has a period? And so I explained it to him, and then he went, why don't boys have periods? And I was like, oh, for God's sake. I'm like, I really don't want to get into this, but no, he's very, you know, tells me everything, but I feel a lot of guilt around that. I feel, you know, I could have been a better mum. I still can be a better mum. I can be a better partner. When I feel under attack, or because people assume that people with BPD are very narcissistic, very self-centered, and we are very self-centered, but that's out of fear. You know, when I said to you the other week about I'm always fearful.
Yeah.
So say someone around me like hurts themselves, I can come across as quite cold and uncaring, but inside I'm going, what does this mean to me? What if they can't look after me? What if, you know, what if they leave me? What if it, so I
think everyone has them thoughts. I think they worry about things.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I do over worry about everything, but I would say there's been a lot of other things that have been sorted out recently, like a lot of financial stuff. And don't get me wrong, this COVID stuff, the lockdown tipped me over. I was going to ask that. Tipped me over. Well,
do you keep off media? Do you keep away from media? Because I don't think that helps. There's a lot of negativity.
I'm not gonna sort of give my own views on COVID because but what I would say is, I think that significantly contributed to that overdose in April. That was a massive.
I think it's affected a lot of people, and this is the worry, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it's delayed now my access to the sort of health treatments that I need, physical and mental, and you know, I'm still sort of in a little bit of limbo, not really knowing what's the sort of cause of what's wrong with me. So we need to diagnose the cause and treat it and all the rest of it. So that is a bit of a worry still, but I'm just trying to do what I can when I can.
So are you going 1 week, 1 day at a time now?
Yeah. But I actually said the other week at home, I actually said, for the first time, I'm starting to feel a little bit more hopeful. And it was probably, like I say, after this psychiatrist thing, because I thought, and it's not a monetary thing. It's not. But it's not about the money, because I can get back. You know, there's two of us there.
Money becomes worthless. People don't understand that either, do they?
And you know what? In the lockdown, that made me realise that actually you don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need, you know, at the time we were just like, right, we just needed food and we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. We saved a fortune on petrol, we were walking the dog, we were going out for bike rides, not spending a lot of money, and, you know, so it's less about the fact. I mean, it will give me security and stability that I need. It will take the stress away for me to be able to focus on my
well, it's a worry you don't want.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people now are worried about money, aren't they?
Yeah,
not about holidays and things, about keeping their homes and their jobs.
I mean, David was due to start a job just before the COVID lockdown, lost the job, and obviously because he wasn't on the books to start off with, he didn't get any money. Prior to that, he'd been working for himself, so he'd shut down all his old clients and said, I'm not doing, because I'm moving to this job. And then so that it's like everything imploded. And you know, for those first few weeks of lockdown, we had nothing, we had no money, and then I thought, and then so financial worries, various other things sort of contributed to not seeing people, not interacting with my friends.
I think that's the worst, you know, love.
Yeah.
I think the isolating from people when really that's what you need.
It's been weird because I'm quite I'd started seeing a friend every week to go for a walk with and stuff like that. The problem is I've gone from being a social butterfly to quite an insular person. So I'm used to spending time on my own now, and I'm fine with it. I've never been fine with it before, but I'm fine with it now. But as soon as someone says, so prior to that I wasn't really going out and doing a lot, but as soon as someone says you can't do it, it was like, it really, like, that feeling of restriction really affected me. But yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed, And I'm not afraid to ask for help. I know where all my services are. I know the people. I kind of try and, like I say, manage a lot of it on my own or with him, or, you know, and try and just get through day by day. I can start planning now, so I wasn't able to do that before. I can start planning a couple of weeks in advance of things we're going to do and stuff like that, because previously he'd say, I don't know which Holly I'm going to wake up to. And it's true. All I need, because I suffer from really bad nightmares as well, sort of, you know, PTSD style nightmares. And if I have a nightmare, I wake up and it screws me up for the whole day. Yeah. And I can say to him, but I had this, and he'll go, but it's just a dream, doesn't mean anything. Understand. But it's your psyche, it's everything that's you know, going around your mind, and then you think about the dream and you think, well, it must still be there deep in my subconscious if it's coming up in a dream. So at the moment I'm dreaming a lot about work and stuff. It's very yeah, I know, it's very weird. No, I'm not. Yeah. But yeah, fingers crossed things are on the right.
So how do you feel right now, having, you know, sat here?
Well, it's weird because I just feel like I'm talking to you.
You are.
But
Stephen making the cable.
And Stephen.
So, Ollie, we are just having a chat. We discussed what I want for this. I'm hoping that you might like to have a chat now and again about various topical issues.
I'd love to. You know me, I've got loads to say for myself.
And become a regular. But
that's if people are interested.
I'm not bothered. I'm interested. You know, people are interested in criminal justice system, and mental health's massive.
I think for me, I think it doesn't matter. So I was brought up in a very sort of middle class southern village, had a good education, had a good education, had, you know, the foreign holidays, had, I wouldn't say affluent, but it was, you know.
So quite opposite. I was brought up in a northern council estate, single parent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably the direct opposite. But that doesn't exclude me from suffering what I've suffered. No, and this is the thing, and I think that was possibly what made me better at my job, is because of that empathy, that sort of. And staff didn't realise this, but you know when someone's genuine and when someone's bullshitting, don't you?
Minutes.
I would feel it in my stomach. You know, when I'm talking to this, so we were doing an act review, I'd feel it in my stomach, that emotion, that wave of emotion. And I used to always suppress it. Towards the end of my career, I was a bit more comfortable in my own skin. And if I had a cry, and I wouldn't hide it from him. And you know, and it quite often that, you know, some of these meetings, there'd be all four of us in tears, you know. It'd be,
tell you how many nurses, you know. Yeah. Because they do get upset.
Yeah. And, you know, it's hard listening. But it's like, there's a saying, isn't there? Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. And that's what I struggle with, is being kind to myself and being. So when I first watched the first episode we did, I wasn't thinking, go on girl, you've done something that you were nervous about, or you know, I was thinking, what are people going to think? Oh, look at my face, it looks awful. Look, I hate my voice. I was just went through a barrage of criticism.
So sitting here talking to me, is it like phoning the bank?
No. You'd probably just give me the money, wouldn't you?
If I had it, yeah.
I know. And it's just, I suppose I'm like, I don't know. I think this might be a shock to. I don't know who's going to see this.
You seem to have changed.
Go on.
No, just while we've been sat here, you know, I don't know. You just seem to have, I don't know, relaxed a bit, like you've had a couple of glasses of wine or something.
Yeah, no, I had to take beta blockers before I did this.
Did you?
Because I was anxious. Yeah.
I was aware, you know, I thought, you know, maybe there's some nerves and that's why I didn't want to say what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect me. I wouldn't go away. So just to be absolutely clear, and just to reassure people or reassure you, I'm not going to go home. This doesn't open up any old wounds. This doesn't like suddenly make me, because it's all still very fresh anyway. So it's like, I suppose it's quite, sorry for another long word, cathartic.
I know what that means, because people kept saying it to me when I read my book, so I had to learn what it was, you know what I mean?
So I guess it's quite cathartic. I am anxious about people that know me who don't know what I've said today, that are going to possibly be quite shocked. Or
I'll try and put you at ease, right? When I was doing the book, I worked with a wonderful writer. The last 3 months I worked with Ingrid at Pan Macmillan. So what I didn't want to alienate any of my friends. The rest of you can just do one. I read the script about 12 times, beginning A4, it comes through the post, so I reading it. I became conscious that pretty much I put myself out there. You know, when I read it, I thought, oh my God, you know, people are going to read this. There were things in it that, you know, maybe being a man I shouldn't have put, you know, about coming out of gym, sitting in my car, crying and all that. And when it actually came out as a book, I didn't read it as a book. I listened to it on audio after about 12 months, and it was like it was nothing to do with me. It was pleasant to listen, and I've just started reading the book now, you know, just to get myself in a good place for the second one. But the same feeling it was, and that's why I kept away from it. You know, and I now realise, our neighbours just moved, she was lovely, I give her a book, and we were talking, and she's like, yeah, I know. And I'm thinking, and then I said, you know all about me, don't you? Because and people do. But you know what? You've got nothing, you know.
I know, I guess I think sort of, maybe it's my family that I'm bothered about, I don't know, because I am sort of, they don't really know any of
maybe
this,
is sort of a good environment to say that, because you know, you perhaps couldn't sit down and say to your family, maybe one day they'll see that or whatever. It might help people to understand you.
I mean, I'm not, and the thing is as well, I'm not great even though I've done this today, believe it or not, I'm not great at opening up. I'm quite a private person. One of my old friends used to call me like an iceberg. She said, we see what we want. You let people see what you want them to see, and then there's all these layers underneath that no one ever knows, that you keep hidden. And I'm not embarrassed. I just don't want people to think, oh, we should have known, or is there something we can do? And you know, this sounds awful, I don't need anything from anyone. I don't, you know, all I guess I've ever wanted from the sort of the mental health side of things is people just acknowledge that I'm not well, and I've got a condition that's going to be with me.
You just want to be treated like everyone else
for the rest of my life,
like normal. And
I don't need, mollycoddling or anything like that. I don't, I just that sort of validation of, she's not well, or, I don't need, people can't give me any support because it's such a personal thing. It's such your internal world is yours, isn't it? It's not,
of course it is.
And, people can't be in your head 24/7, so I wouldn't want them there, because it's filled with images of Tom Hardy show jumping, all sorts of weird shit in there.
Right. So if I'd have known what you're going to say today, what would I have done different? Nothing, apart from I bought some chocolates and a bottle of wine.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't have bought me the wine.
Yeah, I probably bought her a punnet of strawberries and a chicken sandwich or something like that.
No, the drinking, like I say, just to reassure you, the drinking is it's an issue for me when combined with depression. And at present, I'm not,
Well, if you recognise that, then
yeah, I do. And I've sort of And even when I do have a drink, it's never like, I've gone from being a high functioning alcoholic, 2-3 bottles of wine a night,
Okay, no.
to if I have 2 glasses of wine now, I feel guilty. So when I say like it's an issue, it's not because I'm drinking to excess, it's because I'm drinking more than I would like to be drinking. That's, you know, but I'm definitely going to eat. I definitely won't forget to eat.
Yeah, don't binge them. Maybe 2 a day.
Shut up! I'm going to take all the nuts out, all the nutty ones out, because they're my faves.
So, real porridge. That was Holly, ex-prisoner governor. What can I say? Very brave lady. Speaking to me today, saying what she said, like she said. So I hope we all appreciate that. If you want to comment on this, please comment. Tell your friends. We want to make this channel massive. You know, reach out to people with mental health. I'm lost for words, to be honest.
Don't be.
Super grateful. Super grateful. Yeah.
No,
And she made me cry.
Oh.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See you soon.